Okay. Yes guys, welcome back to another video. Welcome to the George Benson football channel. Very different surroundings today. It's the rainy season in Bali. I've gone up north where it's a little bit cold, hence the jumper. And yesterday I was under the weather in the sense of I was sick yesterday, and today I'm like for real under the weather. It's raining. It's not the nicest of weathers, and it's also not the nicest of football matches to talk about today. It's 6 things we learned from Everton 1, Chelsea 0. Chelsea's first defeat in 17 matches after a very good unbeaten run. It came to an end in frustrating fashion. We had a lot of chances in the game. We hit the woodwork multiple times. It kind of puts a real dent in what was a serious charge based off of form. Before we get into anything though, I do want to ask you to subscribe to GBFC if you're new around here and you haven't already done so. And even though Chelsea were beaten, if you could hit the like button on today's video, it helps me out massively and it shows your support for the channel. But we're going to start with a red box, and this man has come under a lot of scrutiny over the course of the past couple of weeks. I'm talking about the youngster Kai Havertz, the man who came in for £72 million. It's kind of difficult when Havertz doesn't have a good game to not refer to the price tag, at least for a moment, because there's a lot of pressure that is on his shoulders to perform due to the expectations with that kind of money spent, due to the quality that we saw as a player from Kai Havertz at Bayer Leverkusen. He was out on the right wing, which, although he supposedly came to Frank Lampard and said, I want to try and play on the wing because we know we're short of numbers in that position right now, it didn't work, and he got lost in the game. He looked as though he was very slow, quite lethargic, which you might come to expect considering the coronavirus and all of that stuff that he had and he recovered from. And supposedly Havertz was a sufferer of the coronavirus at a higher level to what some other people who have had the virus have actually suffered as a result of getting the virus. So, you know, it's a case at the moment of we really do need to bide time with Kai Havertz. We know that he's a player with a massive ceiling of potential. We know how good he can be. But as of right now, particularly focusing on that game against Everton, there was quite a lot missing within his game. It wasn't his best game whatsoever. I feel as though he got lost, and unfortunately we didn't have any other options in the winger position. So there isn't really that much we can do about it. Let me see if I can clean this lens ever so slightly. It's getting very, very wet over here. So I move into box number 2, and there were a couple of positive performances in the game, and it was unsurprising really who these positive performers were. Rhys James is box number 2. I've given him a green again. I thought he was good. I think we restricted Everton to minimum chances, and Rhys again going forward looked solid. He's had a couple of great efforts, hit the woodwork again. I feel as though in a game like this where Chelsea really weren't good enough, we weren't up to the standards that we've recently been setting ourselves, it's still important to pick out the positives in games where we're not doing very well, where we're beaten. And I thought Rhys James was in a game where we really struggled to create good chances and the going forward players weren't really up to the level that we're used to or that we would expect from said players. I thought that Rhys James, as an attacking outlet as well as a defensive outlet, was the best player on the pitch for Chelsea Football Club. So Rhys James gets himself a green box. And box number 3 is another red box, and it's for injuries. You know, Christian Pulisic, I mentioned it in my preview. I thought he was going to have a big part to play in this game against Everton. Turns out he didn't even make the squad, and that is a serious worry right now for Chelsea. In the summer, we did lose Willian and we lost Pedro. We bought in Hakim Ziyech. Chelsea need to invest again in another winger, and I think the reason for that isn't just because of current injuries. Ziyech is injured and Pulisic is injured, but it seems to me that it's a recurring thing with Christian Pulisic. He keeps getting injuries. Hakim Ziyech as well, he's quite a lightweight kind of player, and I think he is also going to be very injury prone in the Premier League, which could be a big problem for Chelsea with Callum Hudson-Odoi not being at the level that we would have wanted him to be at so far. He's had a pretty good season in the Champions League when he's played, and he's had a couple of good moments in the Prem, but it's not consistent enough. And if we're going to keep getting these injuries, particularly when wingers are a fundamental part of what makes this 4-3-3 system work for Chelsea, we're going to keep getting injuries to these players. I don't just think it's a coincidence. I think it is a recurring theme and something that will continue to recur based off of the nature of the way those players play. Pulisic, he's an explosive player. He's going to get brought down all the time, similar to that of Eden Hazard. But when you compare the physical build of Eden Hazard to that of Christian Pulisic, Hazard was very big and strong despite his size and despite the fact he was always scythed down by defenders. Christian Pulisic isn't that kind of player, so we're going to have to expect it from these wingers, and I think Chelsea are going to need to invest in a winger again this January. Let me know in the comments down below who you think it could be. The rain is getting worse. So box number 4, I've given another green box again because despite losing the game, there were some good performances out there from Chelsea, and on any other day, with a bit more luck, Mason Mount would have had himself a goal or two in this one against Everton. Came very unlucky from some free kicks. I think Jordan Pickford, one game he looks like he's just one kick of the football away from disaster, but he did very well, Jordan Pickford, in this game for Everton. Mason Mount, I thought, as a creative outlet, was one of, if not our best players in this fixture. And it's tough, you know, when we lose the game, and it's been a couple of days now. I've been through social media yesterday when I wasn't feeling good. I was looking at people really going in on some of these Chelsea players for the performances and the way we approach the game. But I think the key thing was box number 3, with the injuries that we have. Frank Lampard has been very consistent with picking this 4-3-3 formation. And when you don't have an out-and-out winger to actually field on the pitch, it kind of ruins Chelsea's entire shape. And I think that Mason Mount was actually one of those players that did manage to keep the shape for Chelsea. He worked very hard, and, you know, it's a tough game. You always go to Goodison Park, and it's never an easy fixture. And even last season, I think the performance that we saw from Chelsea this season was better. And I know that in terms of the way we judge this Chelsea team, we're not going to judge this Chelsea team come the end of the season about one result that we have in Merseyside. It's about the whole picture and the bigger picture of the season. But it was an improvement, but again, it just wasn't good enough. We didn't take our chances. Our attacking players all had off days, to be honest. And I move into box number 5, and it is a red for Teemo Werner. I've been very patient with Werner, been very patient with Havertz as well. But for me, they were the two players that were Chelsea's worst players in this game. And I think the thing is, Teemo is pretty good at coming in off the left-hand side. He doesn't mind playing there. Of course, he would much rather be playing through the middle. And I think that when Chelsea fans see the result against Everton and the lack of creativity in the final third from the wings, people are going to look at it and say, you know, we've brought in Teemo Werner to be a striker. So from now on, unless there is injuries inhibiting us the way it was at the weekend, Teemo Werner needs to be the starting striker. Olivier Giroud, he'd been in great form, but it wasn't his best game either. He didn't really get involved too much. He wasn't really in good positions very often either. Teemo Werner, I just feel as though at the moment he's lacking in confidence. I know a lot of that comes to probably the scrutiny that he's coming under. Again, he's come in for a lot of money. He's been scoring goals for fun in the Bundesliga, but playing on the left wing is not where we get the best out of him. He knows that. Frank Lampard probably knows that too. And when our players come back from injury, and we've got Pulisic fit, we've got Ziyech fit, we've got Hudson-Odoi fit, I want to be seeing Teemo Werner go through the middle. I know I've been calling for Olivier Giroud to start games because of his form, and of course that is a natural thing when a player scores 4 in Seville on a Champions League night and follows it up with another goal at the weekend against Leeds. Of course you want him to start. However, Olivier Giroud's 34, he's not going to be here forever, and we've brought in Teemo Werner as the future of Chelsea's striking position, so I think he's got to start through the middle. We move into box number 6, and this has not been the most enjoyable 6 things we learned to make. It is episode number 100 of this series as well. So a massive thank you to all of you for following, whether you watched the first one or this is your first 6 things we learned video today. But I'm going to finish it with a yellow, and I'm also going to clean the camera lens again because this is getting out of hand. I'm finishing with a yellow box, and Chelsea have been very lucky this weekend that we go to Goodison Park, we don't get a result, but none of the other teams around us, apart from Leicester and Southampton, managed to get good results either. So Liverpool managed to draw, Manchester City drew, Spurs concede a late equaliser at Palace to only get a point as well. So in the bigger picture of the way the Premier League table stands, I'll put it up on the screen for you guys now, this defeat isn't as catastrophic as maybe some fans, particularly Chelsea fans, make up on social media. The fact that other teams around us weren't able to capitalise on our good run of form ending is a great sign for Chelsea. We go again tomorrow against Wolverhampton Wanderers. There'll be a match preview out for you guys first thing in the morning tomorrow on a match day. So the fact that other results did in fact go our way is a huge plus for Chelsea after what was a poor performance, a lacklustre display, and I described it on social media as toothless. We didn't really look like scoring a goal unless it was from outside the area. There was the Zuma chance that came in as well, where based off of his current form of scoring goals, Kurt Zuma, you would have expected him to convert it. Jordan Pickford gets down nicely to just basically pick up the ball, to be honest. It was straight at the goalie. Chelsea, apart from hitting the woodwork a couple of times, didn't create enough chances in this game. We come away from Goodison with absolutely nothing for the second season in a row. But as is always in December, the good news is there's another game tomorrow. We can resurrect the form, start another unbeaten run going again, and hopefully come away from the Molineux with all 3 points. But thank you very much for watching today. I apologise about the water on the lens. There's not really much I can do. My little chalet thing behind me is super dark inside as well. So the only place I can go is where the natural light is, and sadly it's piddling down with rain, which pretty much describes Chelsea's performance. But anyway, thank you guys for watching. I love you all. Come on, you Blues.